To trust the process live. It's Monday. That means you see our faces. It's Manic Monday, All-Star Mania Monday, whatever you want to call it. It's Monday, and all of us. Well, Max might have had a good day, but it was definitely a manic Monday for me. I'm a little bit frantic, as you can tell, but as always, I am your frantic host, James Hyden, along with my guys, Doc Locke, Josh Saffron. How you doing, fella?
Man, it is Monday, which means I'm doing well. But yeah, definitely manic, and I want to be together in real life, plain and simple. But I'm doing good.
Good. Hey, Digits. We didn't have him last week, so he may have took some off. He may have added a few. He may have kept it just the same. But I guess the only person to tell us is the man with digits in his name, Max Coolish. Good to have you back, man. How are you?
Feeling good. Back from my 1 week hiatus. Glad to see you guys didn't burn down the place without me. So good to be back, ready to get chatting.
There's no promises. There's a candle on in the background, and I often leave them unchecked. Back from which he went, but our man, the YG young gentleman, James Jackson himself.
Yes, sir. Why manic, y'all? Life is good right now. Life is, you know what I mean? Life is great, baby. We champs, baby. Life is good. Why y'all so, man? Take a sip out of the joy of life with me. Come on, man.
Yeah, pass that around. You know,
life
I don't know.
good.
I don't know what it tastes like. I've been told it's nice.
I wish I could.
Well, we're going to get right into our main event, guys. And this one is, it's going to be mostly about the Sixers. I can't promise it's going to be all about the Sixers. And I think there's a certain question about a certain someone who plays a certain position for a certain football team in a certain city coming up later on. But I won't spoil it. I don't think I spoiled it with those little hints right
man,
there.
I'm clueless. I wonder who that could be.
We're going to stick with the guys who dribble the basketballs, who should not shut up and dribble, because you should speak out on whatever you feel like because you're a person. But we're going to stick with the Sixers right now. We're going to kick it off with a question. And Doc Locke, I'm going to come to you first. Woof. The dogs are barking.
Oh.
The dogs are barking. All right. Woof. The dogs are barking. Do you feel like the Sixers, what do you feel about this number 7? This number 7. 7-point dogs. 7-point dogs. Tell me how you feel about that. All right, Josh? There's 7-point dogs on this West Coaster to the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, how do I feel about 7, or how do I feel about dogs? I'll give you my answer to both. First off, how do I feel about 7? Doc Locke mode real quick. I'm hammering those 7 points as long as we find out Joel Embiid is playing. I love that 7 points. Yep. But about, do they deserve to be dogs tonight? Yeah, they do. And honestly, it's hard for me to say when I look at, just look at the roster side by side, and especially with Mike Conley out. I feel like the talent on the Sixers is greater than the talent on the Jazz. I really do. But there's no way you can make the Sixers favorites tonight. I wish you could. It's just even if you threw out the last 3 games or so with the road trip, I would still make the Sixers dog. But it just speaks to how hot the Utah Jazz are. You don't need me to tell you that. They're at top of everyone's power rankings. So, yeah, I hate to say it, but yes, they do deserve to be dogs. But the 7 points, take the 7 points.
All right. Well, yeah, they haven't lost a game since January 5th, I want to say. It's the Utah Jazz are one of the hottest team in the league, even without Mike Conley. Max, what do they deserve to be dogs? And I don't know how I feel about this 7, but tell me what this line's telling you.
I mean, it's definitely enticing to take the Sixers as 7-point underdogs. That's for sure. Would I do it? Probably. I think you're laying a touchdown to what's going to be a pretty you would imagine a pretty good matchup between 2 pretty good teams. Even if the Jazz win comfortably, that might be a comfortable 4-point win. The Sixers are no slouch. They've performed on the road this year, which is not something I would have said last year. But they've been respectable on the road. Obviously, you're still preferring them to play anyone they can at home, but. The Jazz have won, I believe, 20 of 21 after last night, including the I forget what is it, 13 or 14 win streak that they're on. So I mean, yeah, the Jazz would and should be favored against probably anybody in the league right now, especially with the news of Anthony Davis's injury. I don't think the Lakers even get the benefit of the doubt against them, if they hypothetically played today or soon. So.
Wow, JJ. So tell me, you think I believe you think that they should be underdogs, but tell me again and tell me what this 7 means to you.
The 7, I believe, is just a byproduct of kind of what Josh was saying about how hot the Utah Jazz are, plus them being at home. But a 7-point game in today's NBA, 7 points is nothing. You can erase a 7-point deficit in literally seconds with today's NBA. So I think that is still predicting that it's going to be a close game, but giving the slight edge to the Utah Jazz. Josh, something I will disagree with you about is I do think it's because of the hot streak the Utah Jazz on and the little, 2-game losing streak the Sixers were on. I think if you were to throw that 2-game losing streak out, I think you could make a case for the Sixers being the favorite because of the talent disparity on paper, plus the Utah Jazz not having their starting point guard and Mike Conley. Like, I think that would either at least constitute the Jazz maybe being, -4 or -3 or something like that. But that's if you're going to close the gap that much, you might as well just make it even, or the Sixers, favorites at that point. If you're gonna close it by that close of a game. But you're looking at the Utah Jazz, who's coming in off of 7 straight wins. That includes a 14-point win against the Bucks and a 12-point win against the Celtics. They're beating very good teams on, in the midst of this winning streak as well. So when the Sixers come in on a 2-game skid, yeah, they deserve to be underdogs. But I do think if we're going to live in the realm that Joel Embiid is playing tonight until we see reports otherwise, even with a Joel Embiid not at 100%, which he's clearly not been in this road trip, you've seen it many games, won the last game of the road trip, I do expect a win because of that Embiid-Gobert matchup that I just believe Joel Embiid wins when 2 dominant down-low centers are going head-to-head. I think Joel Embiid is the most dominant center in the NBA in terms of, dominance in the presence. We know Gobert likes to defend in the post. That's where Embiid does most of his game. And I think when those two go head-to-head, I just see Joel Embiid winning that matchup, which most of the time Embiid wins his matchup, the Sixers win the game. So I do think that's where it balances out, but I don't fault the line being, the Jazz being 7-point favorites and the Sixers being 7-point dogs. That's where they are currently right now. 2-game losing streak, 7-game win streak, the top of the East versus the top of the West. That's how they match up at this current moment.
Well, I hear that was the point I was about to make, because you're definitely, I can't refute that. Like that 7 number, it's got to be a product of the 2-game losing streak that they're on now. I feel a little disrespected, as a Sixers fan, and I've been the one who's been, trying to pump the brakes a little bit on the Sixers team. But JJ, you did say it; it's the top team in the East going against the top team in the West. 7 points seems like a good amount to me. That seems like a lot. That's a lot of points.
You're on a 2-game losing streak, and they're the best team in the NBA. Max, you said it yourself. Anyone would be underdogs against this team. Now account for the fact that you're on a 2-game losing streak and you're on the last game of a road trip. That doesn't constitute 7.
I think this is Vegas. I think this is Vegas running with the idea that Embiid is not going to play. I get that the Jazz are playing really well and they are at home, and I just feel like 7 is too high if the Sixers are at full strength.
Wrong.
It just is.
I agree. Wrong. It's less about y'all getting disrespected and more about let's give the Jazz their props with being the best team in the NBA at home, facing a team who's on a 2-game losing streak. I mean, if the roles were reversed, you guys would be fine with a 7-point advantage.
But it's not like the Sixers are the number 1 team in the East. If the roles were reversed, I would be wary of a spread that large against a team that is number 1 in their conference.
I'm going to cut in.
Anybody else that's double digits.
I'm really glad I'm not a bookie, because I would have put this line somewhere around 9.5, because they just beat the Bucks by how much did you say, JJ?
14. The Thunder last night.
So all right. So before I get to my point, wait. Do the Bucks look? Say it with me now. Shaky baby.
Josh said that loss to the Thunder last night was bad.
I'm lucky I'm not a bookmaker, because I would be giving out free money setting this line at 9.5. I mean, look, you're on a West Coaster. It's very obvious. Doc Rivers has spoken about it at length about how bad these COVID protocols have been. The between giving these guys an extra hour of sleep and cutting practice hours, like the Sixers are not in good shape. If you've watched the last couple of games, they look exhausted.
They look tired.
And I think the Embiid questionable moved the line probably about 4.5 points for some. That's a big swing. And if you're a bookmaker and you watch the last game, how much or how little that bench can score without Shake Milton, it's like this is just the Sixers need to come home and they need Daryl Morey to cook something up, which leads us into our next question very nicely. And I'm going to go back around, but I'm going to tell you what I took from this road trip. And we're going to come back around. The question I'm going to pose to you guys is give me a negative and the positive from this bumpy road trip, okay? And my negative, real quick, is this bench can't score without Shake Milton. It is what it is. You like what you've seen out of Tyrese Maxey, but you need more. You definitely need more from Tybal. It's Shake Milton's hurt. You don't know really when he's going to get him back. Mike Scott is a shell of himself and just can't run with anybody and can't shoot anymore. You need to go make a move. And JJ Redick is now out on the possibility of making a reunion with the 76ers. So the negative is obviously the bench still needs a good amount of work. When to start the season we were all proclaiming, the second unit's going to be super fun to watch. It is what it is. And I think they were at first. They definitely were. But if we want to actually be viewed as the top team in the East and not just hold it record-wise, I think the bench needs some work. The positive is Ben Simmons looks pissed off. Ben Simmons looks pissed off. And if you're going to say, if you're one of those fans out there that's going to say that Devin Booker handled Ben Simmons all night long and gave him fits, you didn't watch the full game because Ben Simmons wasn't on him the whole game. And when he was on him, he gave him fits. So Ben Simmons looks pissed off, and that's always a good thing. But JJ, positive and negative from this West Coaster.
I guess since you started out Negadelphia, and I'll start out on the negative side too. That seems just to be the knee-jerk reaction of Philly sports fans. We just start out where the grass isn't greener. But I think the negative that screams out to me is this is the first time all season. Maybe that is a little positive, but now we're starting to see the fatigue factor of Joel Embiid, where he even started before small injuries started to arise. He looked tired even in the Sacramento game to start this 4-game road trip. The minute the ball tipped in the Sacramento game, he just looked like a little slow. He started the first half very slow, ended the game with, I believe, 24-25, but it was a sluggish 24 and 25. We haven't really seen the fatigue be that bad from Joel Embiid this season, but this is it's kind of an inconvenient time for it to start rearing its ugly head. I guess, there's going to be dog days in any season when it's still 72 games, even though we're in an abbreviated year. So I guess there's going to be dog days, but you would like to see your superstar have, the superstar endurance, like a Donovan Mitchell is having, like a LeBron James is having, like a Damian Lillard is having. And Embiid looks like he's starting to take a gear slower. Now, when he comes back home and gets some days rest before his next game, that may change, but that's just what we're seeing right now. And the positive banners, I'm exactly where you are. My positive is Ben Simmons. And you're right. Like, since those trade rumors, he looks like he has something to prove. And that is the biggest positive for Sixers fans, that Ben Simmons is playing like he has something to prove. Because even when it was, you're lacking a jump shot, you're lacking offensive skill sets, what was his response to that? Man, I'm an all-star. So, he didn't think he had anything left to do, he didn't think he had anything left to prove. He thought he was ultra secure. Then he got put on the trade block. Then someone said, hey, we will trade you if we get a good offer. If we get an offer good enough, we will move you. And it made him have to prove something. Now I have my worth to prove if I truly want to stay in Philadelphia and be known as one of the cornerstones of this franchise. And at least through this road trip, he's looked like he's upped his play a little bit. 14-9-7 against Sacramento, 23-9-11 against Portland, 18-4-6 against Phoenix. And doing it at a time where his superstar does look a little bit sluggish. I don't think that's a coincidence that when Joel Embiid went down maybe a notch or two, Ben Simmons went up maybe a notch or two. I think that's a very good sign for Sixers fans. And that, no matter where Joel Embiid is, that's something that needs to stay consistent. And that's Ben Simmons playing like, I got something to prove, playing like there's something more to do and more to accomplish, at least in his career or in the season, not playing with a content mindset, which he can often present. I think it's a good sign.
Maxie, give us your cons and pros since we both started off negative.
it's hard for me to really think of a con other than the bench's lackluster performance because the starters are most certainly pulling their weight. I'm kind of surprised that you guys are saying Embiid looks tired and sluggish because he's been pretty dominant over these 3 games. I mean, maybe it hasn't been his cleanest games ever. Yeah, he's had some sloppy turnovers for sure. I'm not gonna disagree. But statistically, he is having impact. He's not going missing in any of these games. And
no, never said that. Just before you continue, never said he went missing. But he does look tired. He does look a little slow.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I don't. Maybe he's a little bit tired because we are kind of in the dog days of the season. They're playing every other day. It's probably starting to catch up to him a little bit after West Coast road trip and all that stuff, adjustment of the time zones. But I actually was going to give him props because it's not really affecting his level of play. Like his worst game that he had was 25-17, or maybe it was the 34-9 game. Like you pick one of those 2 games, but like both of those are still really, really good games. And I think it really just kind of boils down to when he's not on the court and I don't want to say primarily it drips down to Tobias and Ben because it doesn't, because they've been playing really well as well. But it feels like the 3 of them can't really do too much more without this getting to the you definitely can't sustain this and win throughout the course of a regular playoff season. So I think the bench needs to get some tweaks. It just kind of feels like a lot of the bench guys are in a slump right now. Like Thibault. I mean, Thibault's never been known as an offensive guy, but he looks like he's Tony Snell out there trying to shoot. And Maxey's cooled off after he's kind of, I don't want to say he got discovered, but we see this happen with rookies all the time. There's even 20 games worth of film, they kind of maybe hit a little bit of a wall, and it's up to them to find that first adjustment to the things going on around them. So it just kind of feels like everybody on the bench is just kind of slumping at the worst time possible. And obviously no Shake Milton, it really, really increases the burden on everybody else. I mean, that's probably the biggest key, but I don't want to say my negative is that Shake Milton's not playing because that's kind of a cop-out answer. So I think it's poor timing, a lot of it. And naturally the West Coast road trips are hard, man. It's tough going. We see there's a major difference when your body is operating on even if it's for a week, if you're operating 3 hours, forward or backwards compared to what you're used to, that's going to mess you up to some extent. And that's not an excuse for athletes of this caliber, but it is most certainly a factor. And I'm not going to press the panic button after losing to the Suns, who are the second hottest team in the NBA, maybe after the Jazz, and losing to Portland, who, I mean, Damian Lillard hates the Sixers maybe slightly less than the Warriors because. Yep. It's just free money taking his points props every time.
Melo. Y'all did something.
Melo's always been good for it, but Melo's not the one who just every time I know that the game's close in the fourth quarter, I'm legitimately worried about Damian Lillard more than I am most other players.
Yeah. Josh, cons and pros and cons, whichever order you choose.
I wanna switch things up a bit and get out of the Negadelphi. I'm gonna go with a pro first. And I'm not going to be original this time around, but I feel like I have to pay my penance. Benjamin Simmons. I mean, if you can go back to the episode where I said I'd rather have Sabonis and look at the splits of Ben before and after.
He heard us.
He clearly was listening. Shout out Ben, friend of the show. But actually,
I'm glad you realized how blasphemous you were for that. Like Sabonis.
I did not call it blasphemous by any means.
That was straight up blasphemous.
Blasphemous.
Nope, I'm not backing that. I'm not calling it blasphemous, but I'm saying his play has improved greatly ever since I said that. And
we say things that we don't mean when we're emotional. It's okay. I said
we're human.
But anyways, if we got a little max freezing there, not again. But back to Ben Simmons. What I was just saying about Ben, I mean, you guys touched on it, but I would be remiss if I didn't give him credit. He's just back to that Ben Simmons that we've known he's capable of. And I guess I'm still wanting him to kick it into another gear, but he doesn't have to. I don't think he has to. I am fine. If this is the Ben Simmons that I see for the rest of this season, I would sign up for that. I mean, he is really playing well, first of all, we know how good he is on defense. Yeah, Banners, you were right. He did give Devin Booker some fits, but this is tying right into my con. My con is history repeats itself. And I mean, for all the talk we have about how this team's different than all the other teams, I'm starting to see some of the same things that have been problems the last few years, aside from Joel Embiid. Because JJ, I do hear what you're saying. He has looked a little slow, But I am just so unconcerned about Embiid. He played against Rashawn Holmes in one of his, quote, worst games of the year. And while Rashawn Holmes isn't going to make any all-star team or anything like that, he is a legitimate player. He's a physical big man. And
energetic, too. Very physical, energetic player.
And he's got so many reps against Embiid in his career, probably more than, maybe not more than anyone, but up there, as much as anyone. Mm-hmm. So, while Embiid, he does look a little bit slower, I'm willing to say, hey, played against Rich Homie Quan in that one. Stay 20-tuned. Love Rashawn Holmes. I would love to have him now, but I'm willing to just put that one aside. The other thing is the Trailblazers. Trailblazers games, as I said, always played in vortexes. That's still happening. That Suns game, Devin Booker, I think he averages 35, maybe 37 points in games against the 76ers. Dwight Howard, where has he gone? The bench, where have they gone? So many things that have been problems these last 3 years, and we've said this team so many times, it's different. And I do believe that partially, but man, there's so many things from the last few years that are starting to rise up, and I feel like it's slowly but surely turning sour.
Yeah, I think it's a problem if and Daryl Morey has to know this. I think it's a problem if your bench, if Shake Milton is the key factor in you being a title contender or not. Like if you remove Shake Milton from this lineup, the bench is completely useless. I think that can't be the case. You know what I mean? As much as I love Shake, I'm part. Hey, we're part of the Shake fan club here. Shake, go ahead and shake, but that can't be the case. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Well, it makes sense, but at the same time, no title contender, no title winner is complete without like a very competent bench unit. Every title team in the modern era, it was their superstars are carrying most of the weight, but they're winning because their bench is beating the opposite team's bench.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm saying like Shake Milton can't make your bench viable.
There's a premier player on every bench, and Shake Milton is the Sixers Sixth Man of the Year candidate. I mean, before the injury, he was like top 5 in that category. So I don't think it's a huge problem that Shake Milton goes down on the bench is different, because I think when you lose your best bench player, your bench is going to take a hit. Like that's just what happens.
I just think different and not viable are separate things. You know what I mean? Like Shake Milton, obviously removing Shake Milton is going to change the complexity of the game, everything like that. But removing Shake can't make your bench just not viable. You know what I mean? There was a point where they were searching for anything like having Joel Embiid and Seth Curry out there with bench guys. Like that's a lineup we should never see. That means they're searching. You know what I mean? That means they're hunting for anything to get this team going late in the game. And if that we saw that late in the game, like that's not a great thing to see. So it's, as much as I love Shake, we can't let him make the bench not viable when he rolls his ankle. You know what I mean? But getting on to a brighter spot, and Max, you touched on this a little bit, and we're getting into the mania part of this episode. All right, and we titled the episode All-Star Mania, and this is where we get to talk about probably the quietest piece of the Sixers, and quiet in personality and his role in the game, Tobias Harris. Now, if you're a fan of the show, longtime watcher or listener, and I say listener because as a reminder, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, on all podcast platforms, whether that be Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or you want to make one up,
seamless, always
podcast
seamless.
On it. But if you are a long-time listener,
just a true professional when it comes to the plug. Just absolutely.
I got to do my reads. You know what I mean? I got to do it. But if you're a long-time listener to the show, you have seen me be very critical of Tobias, going back to when we first got him. And you have also seen me praise the Tobias Whisperer, whether in being Glenn Rivers. So I'm going to come back around with this question. And Josh, coming to you first, man. Do we have the All-Star Mania for Tobias Harris? Like, is Tobias Harris deserving of All-Star recognition?
if Tobias Harris is an all-star this year, they might as well just change the name of the whole game to Good Player Game.
I don't get him. I don't get him. I don't get Josh.
Change the name of the All-Star Game to the Good Player Game if Tobias Harris.
That's what it. What do you think an All-Star means? That's what it is. I don't get Josh.
Okay. Let me read you some Tobias Harris stats. He's 18th in points in the Eastern Conference. There's 12 players on the roster. He's 32nd in rebounds. He's 50th in efficiency. These are stats in the Eastern Conference, not the entire NBA, okay? I don't see any way on earth where Tobias Harris should even be making a case for the All-Star game this season. I'm sorry.
I mean, Max, help me out, dude.
Wow. I'm not gonna lie, the stats are pretty damning. I would have expected him to be a little bit higher, at least in terms of the Eastern Conference. I'll say this: he is at the level of a guy who's a borderline all-star, but it does seem that he's maybe going to get squeezed out this year because the East has kind of had some risky teams like one comes to mind. How can you justify picking Tobias as much as I would love to over someone like Gordon Hayward for the Hornets? Been way more instrumental in their lesser success than the Sixers, but need to look at the numbers to know that he averages more points a game. And if I'm putting my betting money on it, I'd be willing to incline without knowing for sure that rebounds probably goes to Hayward as well. So that's just like one example that comes to mind where it's like Hayward's really easy to forget, right? Like he's a guy that's playing in a middling team who's he's a well-known player, maybe not the most well-liked player in the league, but it's just, that's one example of where it's probably going to be tough to justify voting for Tobias Harris, who's the third piece over, on the best team in the East so far, over a guy who's putting up the stats and the accolades, even if he's on a team with much less overall success.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Those Eastern Conference stats kind of messed me up. But JJ, it's on you, man. Bring me back up here. I'm down here. I want me up here.
I got you. To think that he's not an all-star is not a wrong answer because Max, you're right. He's a borderline all-star. So borderline means if he doesn't make it, I have no complaints. But if he does make it, I have no complaints. But to say that there's absolutely no case for him to make an all-star team, like sometimes, Josh, I just don't get you because you're the same person that will say in week 3 Jalen Hurts needs to start, but Tobias Harris isn't an all-star. Like I don't
was I wrong? I feel like
I don't know, but the vibes, one, you're so crazy optimistic one point, and then one time I can't get you to give anybody props. Hey, this would be the one answer. This would be the one answer or the one question I expect you to come to the defense of one of your guys and say he's playing like an all-star. And I believe last year in the All-Star game, I believe there were 2 players who averaged under 20 points that were in there: Chris Paul and Kemba Walker. If I'm correct.
It's also a popularity contest. Let me fact check myself real quick. The rebounds number and the efficiency number were the entire NBA, not the Eastern Conference.
And he's the third best player on the best team in the Eastern Conference. Like the fact that he's 18th in scoring doesn't surprise me. He's the third option. But if you look at his numbers in a vacuum, it's 20.7 rebounds, 3 assists on 51% from the field. Are those not borderline all-star numbers? Like you can give me where he ranks in the Eastern Conference.
I'm back. I was here. I'm here. JJ,
like those are all-star numbers. And where the Sixers fans can find some solace is if he doesn't make the all-star roster, he's still playing at an all-star level. Like forget the actual star next to his name. But if he's playing just as good, if not better, than some 11th or 12th man who gets the reserve vote on an all-star roster, who cares if he gets 10 minutes in the all-star game? Like he's still playing at that all-star level, and that's exactly what the Sixers need from him. Like most title contending teams have the combination of an all-NBA and all-stars wherever that is, whether that's one all-NBA or one superstar with 2 all-star level players or 2 all-NBA with an all-star player. Like that big 3 combination is there, and the Sixers have that. Whether that's the one superstar in Joel Embiid or the 2 all-NBA players with Embiid on the offensive end and Embiid and Simmons on the defensive end, and Tobias Harris playing all-star level. Like, who cares if he actually gets in? 27 and 3 on 51% from the field is all-star-like numbers, And that's exactly the threshold that Tobias Harris needs to hit. So
Won't
he's
he
a
do it?
Sixers all-star. Like he's a Sixers all-star. He might not be an NBA all-star, but he's a Sixers all-star, and that's good. That's exactly where it is. But to say there's absolutely no there's absolutely no way Tobias Harris makes an all-star team. Look, if 3 people get hurt in the next 2 weeks, guess what? Tobias Harris is on the all-star roster. That's where he is right now. Give the man some props. Come on, man.
Won't he do it?
Won't he do it?
Let's go. That's what I
can't
need.
believe you made me the Philadelphia, the Philadelphia optimist right now.
You're good at it. Let's go.
Toby's never been my guy.
Well, you're
Give
wrong.
Some props,
right?
man. You say you want to call a spade a spade. Like
I give him props. I give him props. He's good. I'm saying not an all-star.
Train's coming. 9:10 boarding time. Josh, if you're there, hop on. If you're not, it's not coming back around. All right? All right, well, we're going to continue with the Mania part of our main event, and this is our last question for the main event. Oh, this is the certain question about a certain someone who plays a certain position on a certain team in a certain city.
Can't escape it.
Here we go. Carson Wentz is being aggressively pursued.
Who?
It's never going to end. Well, actually, you know what, Max? It might end this week.
Where are you, an Eagles mouthpiece?
Oh.
By reports, it might end this week. I don't know.
Josina Banners over here.
Check it. You know what I mean? Sources tell us.
Josina Banners.
What should the Eagles' asking price be for Wentz? Max, I'm going to come to you first because we all saw what the Matthew Stafford trade got what the Rams had to give up in this Matthew Stafford trade. Now, you could take that many different ways. His contract was quote unquote more palatable than others. He's more of a quote unquote gamer. I'm not going to take all the words out of your mouth.
There's a lot of contracts
we have
Carson Wentz's.
Exactly. And I'm not going to take all the words out of your mouth for reasons why that deal happened the way it did. So we have a little bit of context, but there's so many conflicting reports about what the Eagles are asking versus what other teams value him at versus what the Eagles actually value him at. So what should the Eagles be asking? And I say should. What should the Eagles be asking for Carson Wentz?
Well, I'll start by giving myself a quick pat on the back for all these many, many months ago when these first rumors of are the Eagles going to change, and literally thought that you'd be able to recuperate first-round pick for Carson Wentz after he showed on a football field last year. And I tried talking everybody down. I said, look, NFL executives treat picks like they're the goddamn gold, like they're goddamn gold in the 1930s. You're not getting a first-round pick for this guy. You're just not. And everyone's like, but Frank Reich loves him. The Colts love him. And I was like, okay, you know what? We'll be lucky if some guy at all, based on what he showed in his contract situation. So you know what? If the Eagles get anything that's a remotely deal and it seems like something to offer a second and a third or something like that, they are not getting a first-round pick for this guy. And maybe the most embarrassing part of this whole trade situation was when they came out and said, we're not getting offers that we like. We're cool not trading this guy because we like him as a person. And that was just a really, really unfortunate thing to put your name and face behind face and spokesman of a franchise. So that was pretty bad, and it seems like they're in dire straits. So, you know what, at this point, trade them for a second and maybe, you know, anything else you can throw in there for the heap. And you know what? If they're so hell-bent on including or getting rid of Zach Ertz, then just, you know, make it happen with the Colts. The Colts can use Ertz more than probably any other team in the league that's willing to talk with us about, you know, a multiplayer trade. Everybody wants Colts to happen. The fans do for some reason. The Colts want Wentz and Mike, and Wentz wants Zach Ertz, and I'm sure Frank because he's had to deal with Trey Burton and for the last couple of years and so you know what, just make it happen at this point.
Yeah,
Jack Doyle plays 4 games a year. He gets 40 catches and somehow 3 of them are touchdowns in games where he needs to not do anything for fantasy purposes.
Damn good 4 games.
You know what, Jack Doyle's on my shit list. He's a blocker. He's an offensive lineman who ended up being a little bit more athletic than everybody else. So, you know, that's my Jack Doyle tangent.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
you know what? Take Carson Wentz. Just don't give me Jack Doyle back in return. That's all I ask.
oh, now we're talking package spicy. JJ, what should the Eagles be asking for Carson Wentz?
I'm not gonna lie. I was actually on the train of the Eagles might be able to get a first round pick for the right team. And I don't know, Matt, that was so passionately said by Max that he's so against the Eagles getting a first round pick for Carson Wentz that like now I have a tough time even convincing myself that it's gonna happen. But if I'm the Eagles, I'm looking at the Chicago Bears to make this happen, because let me ask you guys real quick, who do you think is better, or do you see much of a difference between Mitch Trubisky and Carson Wentz right now? If there is, who would you say is better?
I hesitate to answer the better question. I would rather have Trubisky because I can walk from Trubisky.
I mean, if we're going based off of just like everything and no contract.
No contract. I guess the contract is the caveat. Like, take the contract out of it because that's what you're adopting. Like, that's a given.
Yeah,
when
it's got to be
Wentz.
Wentz.
Yeah,
Wentz
I would
was
rather
brain dead
Wentz.
this past year, but Mitch has always been brain dead. So
yeah, I'll take Carson Wentz, but I can't say it's easy. That's the thing. I can't say it's easy.
I would rather have Wentz, but if we're like if contracts are apart, I'd rather like if we're taking into account contracts, I'd rather have Trubisky because I can walk. But if it's in a vacuum, I'd say Wentz.
Well, I mean, I don't think Trubisky has to be part of the package. I think if you want to go in the picks range, the second or third round, especially to beef up second or third round for the Eagles, just so, if you have a mistake in there now, at least you have a mulligan or a do-over in that second round to make it happen. But if you're looking at the Chicago Bears, I'm answering that same question. And I'm saying I'd rather take Carson Wentz, maybe not 7 out of 7 days of the week, but in a vacuum, I'd rather take Carson Wentz than Mitchell Trubisky. And now you have a quarterback who's only 1 year older than Mitchell Trubisky. And, Mitchell was taken in the 2017 draft class. Carson Wentz was taken in the 2016. So they're both on the bottom side of 30. And Carson Wentz's ceiling, if you can get him back there. Also, guess who's in Chicago? John DeFilippo. If you get Carson Wentz back to his ceiling is what?
There's
MVP.
There's someone else in Chicago.
I knew it. I say, don't do it. Don't do it to me. Don't lead me down that road.
There's someone else in Chicago, boys.
I mean, and the Eagles are that was wrapped up in this.
Don't give Jalen Hurts a chance, please.
Carson Wentz in. Wait, what was it? But wasn't Nick Foles wrapped up in this whole Carson Wentz trade thing where everyone was like, "Man, if they trade him to Chicago?"
I was talking about Khalil Mack.
Oh,
I wasn't. Wait, Nick Foles is in Chicago?
I don't know.
What?
I guess you never heard that name before. I can't deal with this boy right now. But no, all this is exactly my point. Where you go in and you have the selling point, or you have the comfortability of the last time there was a good Carson Wentz. This guy was a part of it. He worked directly with him. Maybe you can get him back there again. And now, my plus side isn't Mitchell Trubisky. My plus side is a rare form or a peak Carson Wentz, and we may have one of the only puzzle pieces that could get him back to that moment. That's my selling piece if I'm the Eagles to the Chicago Bears. That's why you want Carson Wentz. He's an upgrade over your biggest plus side right now. You have two options, Mitchell Trubisky or Nick Foles. Neither one of them were really good options for you last year. We're giving you a better option than what you have right now. Oh, and by the way, he's only 1 year older than your youngest option right now. Still on the bottom side of 30. Whatever you want to ask for that, Max kind of changed in my mind the asking price. But I do think the Eagles have a little bit of leverage there, even though they're backpacked with a pretty bad contract the Bears know they're going to have to take on. But your plus side is bigger than anything you have on your organization right now.
Josh, what should the Eagles be asking for Carson Wentz?
Well, this is why last week, when the reports were a first Foles and Tariq Cohen, I called it Christmas because I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. What should be traded for Carson Wentz? Well, first of all, I might have thought maybe you can get one first, nothing more, nothing less. Maybe I could have even thought a second. And then Howie Roseman said, I'm waiting for a Matt Stafford type deal. Give me a break. That is just, like, you don't have a gauge on the NFL if you're making a quote like that, Howie. I think the best deal for Carson Wentz is a third-round pick and a Kiki Kute type. I don't know the receiver, but just someone who's like, they might be good. No one really knows. They'll catch the ball. They might be like, they're quick. Like, just a total flyer on a receiver and a third-round pick, and we'll be happy to be off the contract.
Cordero Patterson?
Yeah. I mean, nah, he's too old. We need a young guy who we don't know what he could be. He could be anything, One of those guys where you can talk yourself into, oh, this guy's going to go off this year. The Eagles can make a spin, make a highlight video, like, oh, this guy's so good. And we'll get all excited. And he'll get one catch the whole year and never really do anything. But we'll be happy because we don't have Carson Wentz's contract. That's all that matters. You're not getting anything from this guy. Third-round pick and a mediocre wide receiver, a gadget receiver.
Cordero Patterson. So I don't know if there is a technical asking price for Wentz. I don't know if that's a cop-out answer or not, but I think any asking price for Wentz has to include another player. And the name being tossed around lately is including Andre Dillard in a package. You can't. Like no team is going to bite on a package of or no team is going to bite on just Carson Wentz by himself, mainly because Howie Roseman is delusional, which again means the problem is still in Philadelphia. It's not out the door. I'll tell
you what. If Howie goes to the market with the mindset of these two Eagles fans down here, no wonder he's not going to get anything back for Carson Wentz. You're like, hey, who wants damaged goods? You guys. I know you guys don't really want him, but like, can you take him for like a second of that? Like, if you go to the market with that, that's why you're not going to get anything for him. You got to go. Here's why he helps you. And I think there's one team. There might be only one team that you can go to them and say, hey, this guy is an upgrade to what you have.
Either way, I don't know if Carson Wentz himself is going to have a market, and if it is, it's extremely convoluted. And then you can't combine the contracts of a Carson Wentz and a Zach Ertz when Zach Ertz is going to be demanding a new deal anyway on top of what Carson Wentz is getting paid. No team is going to take that. So, I mean, if anything, I think you can get a first-round pick and maybe recoup like a late-round pick if you include Dillard in that. But to look at that package, how many picks you gave up to go up and get Carson Wentz, and then Andre Dillard was a first-round pick in and of himself. You can call getting a first-round pick back a win, but it's not even coming close to breaking even. Like, it's just
not when you have to ship out your first-round pick from 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's Dillard in that package is the only way you sniff a first-round pick, and what comes after the first-round pick, I think, is up to anybody's chagrin after that point.
I mean, just real quick, I don't even believe too much in Andre Dillard, but like I was saying about like the fake receiver, like there is that hope where it's like this guy was a first-round pick. He hypothetically fills a very large need the Eagles have right now. That's just such a deal breaker for me. Where if you toss in Andre Dillard, it makes me not want to do the trade.
Well, you have Jordan Mailata.
I actually do like Jordan Mailata, but still, I feel like there's after this. He
don't beef up a package.
I don't. I would much rather if I'm looking at it, like if I'm looking at Andre Dillard and Jordan Mailata in a vacuum, and this is segueing a little bit from our topic, but I think this speaks to the overall package because we're talking about who would we include in a package with Carson Wentz. If I'm looking at both of them in a vacuum, I would much rather trust Jordan Mailata with 3 to 4 years ago. The dude has never played organized football in his life. And in year 3 or 4, I can't remember which one it is, he became a serviceable left tackle in the NFL. And Andre Dillard, there's quote unquote hope. Me personally, if I'm looking at X's and O's and ones and zeros like binary, I'm trusting the guy who picked up a sport 3 years ago and became serviceable in the best competition on the planet. You know what I mean? So if I got to toss in Dillard to get a first round pick, that's what I'm doing. Does that make sense? Is that fair?
Oh yeah, no.
I don't hate it. It would certainly be a bit of a sunk cost, but if they're set on Mailata, then why not? It's going to cost less to keep him around than it would Dillard. So
yeah,
Max, we got Super Bowl.
Yeah, you sold your souls for that one too.
Banners fly forever, baby.
Yeah, that's true. I whatever soul I have left, I'll give up for one of those. But this is going to bring us to halftime, and it's going to be unconventional, and you're going to question why, but the product is going to speak for itself. And I'm going to say you're going to question why because there hasn't been hockey to talk about. But like I said, the product speaks for itself, all right? So here's our halftime with Minute with Max. He's coming.
I'll be honest. I thought we were just going to skip right over this. This is news to me that we're doing this. So the best I'll offer you is that in the 3 games the Flyers have played during the calendar month of February, they had 2 heartbreaking leads blown, and then 1 touchdown scored over the division the next day. After one of those heartbreaking losses, they haven't played in 8 days. They were supposed to practice today and didn't. They're supposed tomorrow. Who knows what'll happen? If they practice tomorrow, I would say you can expect to see them Thursday night against the Rangers. They'll probably look like shit since they haven't played in, by that point, almost 2 weeks. But if you're in the mood for sloppy hockey, Thursday is right there for you. But maybe we'll do one of these again in another couple weeks. Whatever happens in this next, the first. I think we got to give them 2 games, right? Right where they play after that. Who cares what they look like?
Yeah, it's Travis Konechny got added to the COVID protocols either yesterday or the day before as well. So that brings the Flyers total to 7, I believe. It's wild. What? So Justin Braun, Claude Giroux, Travis Konechny. I'm blanking. I think Voracek is on it. It's a mess right now. It really
Morgan
is.
Frost is.
Frost, yep. It's a mess. So hopefully our next minute with Max is
they've had productive. Hopefully it'll be productive.
Productive is a good word. So hopefully the next minute with Max, we can give you a full minute of just joy about the orange and black. But right now, we're going to go into COVID protocols on Minute with Max until the Flyers come out of theirs. Okay, how does that sound? Oh, we're moving right on. We're moving right on to word on the street in our second half. All right, boys. The word on the street. Everybody knows how it works. So our first word on the street is going to be the Sixers should feel blank about where they stand this season. JJ.
Encouraged. They should feel, very encouraged that we're, into February now and they're first in the Eastern Conference. And even on a 2-game slide in the midst of a 4-game road trip, they still sit first in the Eastern Conference. And I still think they have, quote unquote, their best stretch of ball to play, or still haven't played consistently their best basketball into the season. That's encouraging for me. Now, it's different if you haven't played your best basketball and you sit 5th or 6th in the Eastern Conference, and you got a mountain to climb. But the fact that you're on top of your conference and you can still pinpoint places that not only we can improve, but I think that we're going to improve once it's all said and done, once we get back fully healthy and make this home stretch run. I think it's encouraging that you've already beaten the defending champions. You seem to have gotten the Boston monkey off your back, even though it was 2 games without Jason Tatum. I know it's there's a little caveat to it, but we already talked about why that win is still encouraging. I mean, I get it. They've had losses to the Portland Trailblazers and Phoenix Suns, but they've looked good against top-tier competition this season for the most part. So I think the Sixers should feel encouraged by where they're at.
Max, the Sixers should feel what?
Got it.
I'm going to keep this look up.
I was trying to think of a better, catchier word, but they should feel hungry based on where they are because they've overcome quite a bit of it. They've had key players all miss time. They've seen a lot of players take on larger roles and get better and like Tobias Harris is a big example. Maxey coming in from college and like I said earlier, he's kind of cooled off recently, but he has had pretty major contributions throughout the team this year. Seth Curry is probably when has been playing the best of his career, and Ben Simmons continues to on the defensive end. Joel Embiid is firmly in MVP conversation for the first time in his career. They should see what's going on around them and realize that they're capable of going all day, right? Like no team is perfect, right? Even some issues, right? No team is perfect. Can you deal with your imperfections enough to overcome them and exploit other teams the way they're looking to exploit you? I think the Sixers team is very capable of going at you a bunch of different ways. We can do the 3-point onslaught, have a dominant force inside. Or we don't have someone insanely great ball minute, gets their own shots still, but you can work around those things. So I think they should feel hungry. They should feel like, hey, we're here. It's the All-Star weekend almost. Like, this is where you're legitimized. If you're in first place in your conference weekend, you didn't fluke your way there. This isn't Christmas with the late October start date. This isn't Martin Luther King Day with the Christmas start date this year. This is this is the halfway point of the season. You've made it halfway through in first place. You can do the second half in first place. So make it happen.
I agree.
I like hungry. Josh, the Sixers should feel how about where they stand this season?
Well, I think this is like summed up the difference between the Negadelphian and JJ right here, because JJ went with encouraged. I was along the lines of hungry. I'm saying unsatisfied because I agree.
That's fine.
Yeah. Okay, I appreciate it. Good. Because I agree, because they should feel encouraged. But the Negadelphian in me, the word encouraged never even popped into my head. It was immediately like hungry, unsatisfied, because it comes back tonight a little bit, is like, if you are championship or bust, like the general manager, Daryl Morey, has called this season, we talked about this already, you shouldn't be 7-point dogs to the Jazz, in my opinion, and like, that number does make sense. But I just feel a little bit like they should feel unsatisfied. And I think they do look better than last year. They look better than the year before then. But I'm still going to bed. And it's keeping me up at night? Just a second-round exit. I'm trying to fall asleep, and second-round exit. You know what I mean? And I can't shake that feeling. So
traumatized.
I am definitely traumatized, but I just a little bit unsatisfied. I need to see just a little more.
All right. Our second word on the street, JJ, coming back around, LeBron being number one in the MVP voting over Joel Embiid is what?
A little cookie cutter. It's a little status quo, cookie cutter, expected, whatever you want. But if you look at LeBron's numbers, you look at Joel's numbers, Joel is about, I believe off the top of my head, 29, 11, and 7 or something like that. And LeBron's 25, 7, and 7. Joel Embiid captains the best team in the Eastern Conference. LeBron is LeBron, but his Lakers aren't even number one in the Western Conference, and he's on a little bit of, they're on a little bit of a slide right now, coming off of a questionable loss. I get they lost Anthony Davis in that game, but even still, so I believe it's a little bit narrative driven. I'm not sure. This was the year. This was coming into where LeBron maybe should have won MVP last year, so he's gonna get the leg up this year, but. If we're going objectively speaking, it's crazy how Embiid is not the number one MVP candidate right now. Like, in my eyes, I don't know if I'm falling for a little bit of Philadelphia bias just because I'm in this market. But to me, objectively, he's the MVP. So to have anyone over him is, to me, wrong. But the fact that it's LeBron James is like, oh, man, I guess it's his world, right? It's LeBron's world. We're living in it. So if he wants the MVP, he's got the MVP. You're going to have to pry it from his cold, dead hand. So it seems a little bit cookie cutter.
Max, LeBron being number one in the MVP voting over Embiid is what?
This is one word here. It's a media driven. It's really what it is. It's objectively incorrect. And I guess it's almost our fault to hold, LeBron's only averaging 25-7 as the MVP. Like, it feels almost unfair to say, but part of the MVP race and part of these seasonal awards that we give out throughout professional sports league, like, expectation factors into these awards. If we're like Coach of the Year is probably the most example throughout all sports, right? Like, and you are the best team going in. A ton of love for it, and I'm pretty sure I froze.
You're there.
I froze.
Here we go.
Cool. Anyways, just to wrap things up, right? So if you're expected to be the best team and you are, congratulations, good job, you did it. If you're expected to be the Oklahoma City Thunder last year and you end up in the 6th seed, then a lot of that naturally goes in leadership positions, which is the coach most obviously. So when it comes to, players are treated the same way. LeBron is LeBron. LeBron's expected to do this every year. LeBron needs to LeBron standards for LeBron to win because he's held against himself. For Joel Embiid is held against the standard against the rest of the NBA, who is a great player, the guy who is dominant in terms of his role on his team, and his team is dominant in success of their their playing field, right? In the Eastern Conference, the Sixers are top dogs. Embiid is clearly most other players in the NBA this year, and especially compared to his teammates. So it makes him an obvious MVP choice. And I talked about this a couple weeks ago. I thought that Sixers-Lakers national TV game would in theory strengthen his case if they were able to win.
Didn't.
They did. He got the shit fouled out of him by LeBron, and that still didn't build any brownie points. So I don't really know what more he has to do. So I don't know. I think if things keep coasting the way they are, you have to imagine the Lakers are going to hit, right? Like this next stretch of games is LeBron's MVP case. If the Lakers keep just destroying teams and winning every game, regardless if they should or not, this is LeBron's MVP race to lose to that.
That's a great point. Now that he doesn't have Anthony Davis.
5-5 and they're in 10 games without Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
Yep. So Josh, Bron being number one in the MVP race over Joel Embiid is
I'm all good.
It's propaganda. That's what it is. It's propaganda. We all want to just, he's better than Jordan. He's better than Jordan. And that's a completely different debate. But it's simply propaganda. And it's almost as if 7 years later, mean old snake Dave Silver is still trying, and the rest of the NBA is still trying to go against the whole tanking for Joel Embiid narrative. And it's just, I won't have it anymore. It is so clear that Joel Embiid is the most dominant player in the NBA, statistically the most impressive player in the NBA. He is the MVP. Everyone just loves LeBron so much. Oh, it's propaganda. Give me a break. Embiid's got to win MVP if the season ended today.
Wow. All right. Max, you make a good point. I think this is LeBron's MVP stretch. If he shows up and shows out, pretty much solidified. But boys, does anybody know what Wednesday, February 17th is?
Pitchers and catchers, baby.
Oh, pitchers and catchers are reporting.
And
since I am the resident spring training baseball watcher,
the only one, in fact.
Oh, I'll join you, Banners.
Here we go. We're watching some spring training baseball.
Yes, sir.
Anybody who doesn't is a loser. All right. Big old loser, in the words of Ace Ventura. But we're going to come back around, and this is the one I'm going to weigh in on. Phillies fans can expect blank this season compared to last year. And you know what? I'm going to start off. Phillies fans can expect to finish better than the Mets this season. Because you know what Mets stands for? You know what Mets stands for? Must end the season. Okay? That's what Mets stands for. They can go, I don't even want to. Nope, not going to do it. Not going to do it. You almost got me there, New York. You almost had me. That blue and orange, you had me right on the edge there. I'm not going to do it. But we are going to finish ahead of the New York Mets. The Phillies plated top five. They were top five in offense in terms of scoring runs. It's everybody. I'm not even going to bring up the bullpen, even though I just did, in terms of being the reason they did not make the playoffs. The Mets were a decent offensive team, but they were nowhere close to the Phillies in terms of putting up runs. So you can add your little Francisco Lindor. That's not a slight, Frankie. I actually really like you. I wish they would have made the trade myself. But for this argument's case, you can have your little Francisco Lindor. You can get your little Noah Syndergaard back. You can get your Carlos Carrasco. And again, Carlos, I like you. It's just for argument's sake right now. You can have your little Carlos Carrascos. It's fine. You're still the New York Mets. You still wear blue and orange, which, again, I kind of like that colorway, but just not on you. You know what I mean? So, like, go back to Queens. Nobody likes you. Or Flushing, whatever you decide to play in. You know what I mean? The U.S. Open's there. City Field's garbage. You know what I mean? So, JJ, sorry about that. I had to speak it out. You know what I mean? I had to just get that off my chest. But the Phillies fans can expect what this season compared to last?
Maybe this is kind of along the lines of you, and I'm not saying that Phillies fans can expect anything groundbreaking, but I think we can expect not to severely be disappointed in comparison to last season. And finishing 500 to me was severely disappointing. I guess especially how we finished 500. I think this team is better than that. But I think this offseason is a little microcosm or a little indication about what we're going to see. And again, did we blow anybody away this offseason? No. But we re-signed JT. We bring back Didi. We are adding to the bullpen. I'm not sure what crazy advance it is, but there's attention going to it. So I'm not severely disappointed. Now, last season, when we just failed to completely address any problems that we knew that we had in the offseason, I was severely disappointed and ended up being severely disappointed in the season. So at least in the offseason, I'm not severely disappointed. They're doing the bare minimum. They're doing what they should. So I expect the Phillies to do what they should. Maybe that's just not finishing worse than the Mets. But I expect to not be severely disappointed. I still need to see a little bit more to buy in or to expect a good Phillies season or, a better than expected Phillies season. But right now I just expect to not be heartbroken.
Josh, Phillies fans can expect blank this season compared to last.
Oh, man, I hate to do this, but I think Phillies fans can expect a little bit more of the same this season as they did last season. And yeah, I mean, I give them props for bringing back JT and Didi, and the offense should be good. But I just feel like, is Archie Bradley really the guy who's pushing the needle for you?
Yes.
Where it's like, I'm not there, and I think, is he good? Yeah, I do like the signing.
Consider my needle pushed.
I could tell.
From where we were, yeah, he pushes it. From where we were, he pushes it.
Like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the push I see. But that's the push between fourth and third to me, or third and second. Like, that's not a playoff push, in my opinion. Banders, I'm the biggest proponent for Mets go to Met. Like, no matter how good that roster is, like, 4 of those guys will get Tommy John, regardless if they're pitchers or not. I am just very nervous to buy in with the Phillies. I think they'll be right around 500. I really do. And I think it's because they didn't make any splashes in pitching. And a lot of those moves I think were good. No great moves. And I think they needed at least one great move. A Paxton Lynch in there. Paxton Lynch. Oh boy,
James
not
Paxton.
The quarterback. James Paxton. Thank you.
I agree. I would like that signing, even though he gets hurt every other day.
Yeah, but you get where I'm going at here. I think they're missing that one pitcher. That's what I needed. That would have pushed the needle for me. Archie Bradley wasn't it.
Well, what about Brandon Kinsler? Does Brandon Kinsler do that for you?
Minor league deal, Brandon Kinsler.
Hey, you never know. You could be a minor league guy. I don't know, aficionado. Max, Phillies fans can expect blank this season compared to last.
Phillies fans can expect regression in a lot of places where they found themselves on the extreme ends, and that means the Phillies fans can expect a playoff berth this year. It's almost statistically impossible. It feels almost impossible for a bullpen to be so ravaged by injuries and just hot, steamy garbage for 3 years in a row. It almost feels impossible. Statistically, they can't get as injured as they have been the last 2 years. Statistically, they're probably not going to be as just terrible top to bottom as they have been the last 2 years. Even a below average bullpen probably gets them in the playoffs last year, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone? Yeah, I know. I got a couple seconds late. Exactly, right? So I think just even some slight regression to the mean is the difference between finishing 4 or 5 games over 500, and that's maybe the difference between making the playoffs or not. Am I saying the Phillies are going to be a legit threat for the title? As of right now, no, because Josh was right. They didn't really do any huge needle-shaking moves, but I think just the pure way that the cyclical nature of sports is that they just can't be that putrid in the same ways for 3 years in a row. So I'll take my chances. Just real quick, and you heard it here first,
if
folks.
You're saying they're
statistical
making the playoffs,
regression is our friend.
They have to be better than one of these teams, the Padres, Mets, or Braves, in my opinion. And I don't think they're better than those 3 teams there.
Guys, you're all forgetting the biggest needle mover of them all.
Oh boy.
Jose Alvarado and his heroic nutsack are coming back this year.
Pause.
That's I believe Jose Alvarez?
Alvarado. No, it's Jose Alvarez. Yeah.
I think
we got Jose Alvarado. We're getting Jose Alvarez back. The dude who took a line drive straight to the cojones and still made the out, okay? Jose Alvarez.
He made the play.
Back.
He made the play.
Still made the play. He took one straight to the gonads and still made that out. We
need that.
You get him back, that's a glue piece right there. That's the glue guy. And you had Jose Alvarado. You got both the Jose's. Max, I love you, man. I was here. I'm here. I'm all the way up here. All right, I love it.
I had to take us out on a positive note.
I love it. And to take us out even further, it's time for tap outs. All right, and I'll go first again because I'm going to take my 30. All right. It snowed here in the city of brotherly love. Now, let me preface this by saying what I'm about to rant on. If the whole street, if the whole neighborhood, the whole block agrees upon it, then I am fine with it. But I don't play this saving spots game. Okay.
No.
I don't play that. I've never played it. I'm not gonna play it. You're not gonna sway me. I'm not gonna sway you. It's just not how it goes. But if I see you shoveling and leaving after you're back from work or leaving for work, I don't care. If I see you shoveling and I see you put a lawn chair there or a trash can or a traffic cone, that means I just came up on two things: a parking spot and either a traffic cone, a chair, or a trash can. That's not how this goes, okay? No. I don't play none of that, all right? I have been victim of shoveling a spot out for my truck, a big spot, mind you, because it's a pickup truck, only to circle the block and found a nice little Kia Soul all up in my harbor that I dug out, all right, for parking my boat. I've been victim to that. And you know what? I said, got here before me. And I took a lap. All right? I don't want any of this saving spots. That's not, no.
I can tell. You know, I can tell that that's a genuine, that story actually happened to you, because no one names Kia Soul off the top of their head.
Oh, it was there.
That clearly actually happened to you.
It wasn't even bright green. It was like
that pea green. That little.
It was like muted. It was disgusting. I don't play any of this saving spot crap. All right, if you want to save a spot, take it somewhere else, or get the whole block to agree upon it, and then I'll have a save spot with you, and then we can be together on the same wavelength. But don't let me catch you throwing these traffic cones or trash cans or lawn chairs or children out there holding spots. I don't play that game. All right, who wants to go next?
I do agree. I'll go next. One, I wholeheartedly agree with that. You know, move your feet, lose your seat mentality over this way. I'm not sure how anybody else plays with the street parking in Philadelphia. It's limited as it is. But my tap out is, I wanted to go next because it's a little bit of a down note, so I'll give Josh and Max the opportunity to bring us up afterwards. But right after the Buccaneers had one of their most exciting times in franchise history, today we had one of our most down days in franchise history. Today we lost former Buccaneer and former NFL Pro Bowler Vincent Jackson, who was found dead in his home in Florida today, which absolutely rocks not only the NFL world, but the Buccaneers world. He spent half of his career with Tampa. He only played on two teams. That was the then San Diego Chargers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 3-time Pro Bowler, 1-time Pro Bowler with the Buccaneers, but more importantly, 4-time Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for 4 straight years from 2013 to 2016. Just an absolute model citizen, not only for the city of Tampa Bay, but the city of San Diego, and for the NFL, and in general, a great mentor to our now wide receiver core leader, Mike Evans, who, you know, Vincent was at the end of his career when Mike Evans got drafted and seamlessly brought Mike Evans into the NFL. I thought the year that we had Vincent Jackson and Mike Evans, we had a great wide receiver core with a stamped veteran and the next up-and-coming good receiver in the NFL. I just can't speak enough good things about who Vincent Jackson was, but prayers up to him and his family. Buccaneers Nation is absolutely going through it today. But, you know, I'm glad he was actually, you know, he got to see his former team bring home the Lombardi Trophy before he unfortunately passed. And, you know, he's able to bring, you know, a pseudo ring up there in heaven with him. So rest in peace to Vincent Jackson. He's going to be dearly missed.
Yeah, 38's way too young for anybody to pass. So thoughts and prayers go out to the family of to the Jackson family. Max, Josh.
Well, that's a tough one to go after. Rest in peace, Vincent
I'm sorry,
Jackson.
I'm a little behind, so I'm trying to I can't really tell who's moving or not.
I'll go. I'll just go. Anyways.
Josh, if you can go, I'm not doing a tap out tonight. I'm wildly delayed. Just go. Just everybody have a good night. There's my tap out.
That's all, folks.
All right. Well, on that note, I have been a movie person my whole life. Like I feel like you're either a TV show person or a movie person, and I've always been a movie person. And lately, I just started watching movies where I would sit through like 2 hours, and I'd be like, "Wow, that sucked." Like I wish I did not just sit through 2 hours. I don't know, fellas. I might be becoming a TV show guy. I watched Fargo. I'm watching Fargo right now. Whoo-wee. I mean, I watched this show called Dark on Netflix. I never even heard of it. Blew my mind. Like,
Yeah.
and the thing about TV shows
Dark's
is
really
it's just
good.
yeah. All right. Not a lot of people know about Dark. Dark blew me away. The thing about TV shows is it's almost like another friend. Where like you don't even have to worry about anything. 9:30, 10 o'clock hits, and you're like, I got Fargo there for me, waiting for me at the end of the night. Like all good. You don't even think about the choice. So I have been like a movie guy my whole life. The TV show turn is coming.
That's a good way to put it. I like that.
Getting old, Josh. Welcome.
Yeah, exactly.
I've done been old, man.
Welcome. We don't have the time for 2-hour movies anymore. Throw a 30-minute episode on. Let's call it a night.
You gotta schedule that. Like give me. I'll block out 2 hours in 3 weeks. All right, let me put that on the calendar.
Exactly.
But that is going to be it for us here at Trust the Process Live. As always, we are brought to you by My New Philly, where something is always new and everything's always Philly. And again, a reminder, you can find this episode and a bunch of episodes wherever you get your podcast, whether that be Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever. You send us a platform where our podcast is not on, and we will put it on there. Thank you so much for joining Philadelphia. We'll see you next week.
I'm waiting for JJ to do the fire the cannon still.